In a weird Hotline Miami meets Planet of the Apes collaboration, you get Ape Out, an addicting new top-down indie game from Gabe, Cuzzillo, and Devolver Digital. With an interesting use of bold colors and a dynamically changing soundtrack, it's a brand new indie game this week that you're not going to want to miss. At its surface, Ape Out is a very straightforward and simple game. It doesn't have a story and really only has about 3 actions: running, pushing, and grabbing. The whole premise of Ape Out is that you play as a gorilla that's been caught by scientists and simply wants to escape. You control the movement of the gorilla with the analog stick and are able to grab or push enemies with the tap of the shoulder button. Although the controls are incredibly simple, they lend to the quick pick up and play nature of Ape Out. Now, just because the controls are simple, it doesn't mean that the actual gameplay is easy, because oh boy can Ape Out get challenging. The difficulty curve starts off low but skews upward as you progress through each of the levels. Every one of these levels change up the environment and the enemy type, thus adding some variety to the simple gameplay and upping the difficulty. For example, early sections will have you just running through a maze in a lab with the biggest hazard being gunmen. However, later on these gunmen will have machine guns, flamethrowers, and even more, all inside a destructible environment that can hurt you. It certainly pushes you to be aware of your surroundings on top of just avoiding the gunmen. As the ape, you run through tight space hallways and large open areas, avoiding the gunmen left and right, attacking them, or grabbing them to use them as a shield. Controls are mostly tight. There were a few instances where I felt that I should have been able to grab a gunman only to miss and get hurt, but luckily these weren't common occurrences to the extent of them becoming annoying. In total, there are 4 albums to play, and you can think of them as worlds containing sections of a level all within one environment. I was able to beat the entirety of the main game within just a handful of hours, but ultimately your mileage will vary on how many times you die while playing. As for post-game content, you can tackle on the harder versions of each album, replay the previous levels just because the layouts keep changing, and even unlock a post-game section with a pretty interesting twist to the gameplay. Ape Out's visuals are plain but have a color contrast to them that helps things pop despite basic looking visuals. The art style flushes out as you progress through each of the 4 level albums. Some sections will have you wandering in the dark with only the light of the enemy's gun guiding you towards the exit. Other instances will have enemies with tranquilizers that completely distort your vision. That's actually one thing I do want to warn you about though. If you're a gamer that has issues with flashing lights, Ape Out actually has a few instances like that, so just be a bit wary. Playing my review copy on the Nintendo Switch, I did notice a few frame rate drops, mostly during transitions between levels. They were definitely noticeable, but never hindered the actual gameplay sections. As for the transition to the handheld mode, things converted over pretty well, with colors looking vivid on the Nintendo Switch's display. The bite-sized level portions make this one of the better games to play on the go with the Nintendo Switch. Seeing the gameplay you do now, you probably wouldn't expect the background music for this game to be like this. It's different, that's for sure, but the dynamic jazz soundtrack actually works. The music syncs up with the actions of the ape, making them feel much more impactful with every punch and grab. It's not to the extent of something like Tetris Effect, but the effect here is charming, never feeling like it overstayed its welcome. In a game about completely aping out, the sound design has never worked better. It's just the right amount of adrenaline pumping to energize a pissed off gorilla. Ape Out isn't some flashy AAA game with a fancy story or realistic visuals. It doesn't need to be. It's a simple top-down game with an easy-to-understand premise that's great to pick up and play. It's the most classic form of a video game to date, and one that I just have no problem recommending. The dynamic jazz soundtrack along with the abstract visuals mesh together to make something that stands out and actually has the addicting gameplay to back it up.